The first voice that crackled through their communication system belonged to someone who sounded like he was discussing weekend barbecue plans rather than existing in a region of space that had terrified civilizations for millennia. Unknown vessel, this is orbital traffic control. You folks seem to be having some navigation trouble there. Your approach vector's a bit wobbly, and your transponder's speaking what sounds like angry mathematics. You need assistance, or are you just sightseeing? Captain Vexthera stared at the communication panel as if it had just offered to do her taxes. In her 3 decades of space exploration, she had encountered beings of pure energy, hive minds that communicated through interpretive dance, and once memorably a species that had evolved past physical form but still insisted on maintaining a customer service department. None of them had ever sounded quite so casual about existing in the universe's premier nightmare destination. This is Captain Vexus Thera of the Zephyrian vessel Pristine Thought, she managed, her crystalline form cycling through colors that didn't have names in most languages. We are conducting a scientific survey of this region. Are you in distress? A pause followed by what sounded suspiciously like chuckling. Distress? No, ma'am, just another Tuesday in the neighborhood. Though I appreciate you asking. Name's Tobias Hendricks, and welcome to the Kepler colony system. Fair warning though, we've got some gravitational shenanigans happening in Sector 4, so you might want to avoid that area unless you enjoy having your molecular structure rearranged. Some folks find it relaxing, but it's definitely an acquired taste. Science Officer Quellen's secondary arms had begun twitching so rapidly they were generating a small breeze. Captain, he whispered, according to our historical records, no colony ships were ever sent to this region. The first surveys classified it as uninhabitable approximately 800 years ago. Oh, that's probably our fault, Tobias continued cheerfully, apparently having overheard. We've been here about 2 centuries now. Turns out the previous surveys were a bit pessimistic. Sure, you've got your standard space-time fluctuations, reality storms, and the occasional dimensional hiccup, but nothing you can't work around with proper planning and a decent sense of humor. Vexthera felt her worldview beginning to crack around the edges like poorly maintained hull plating. You've been living here for 200 years? Give or take, lost count after the 1st century when that temporal loop thing happened. Anyway, you're welcome to dock at Station Gamma if you'd like. Fair warning though, the artificial gravity's been acting up since we installed the new quantum stabilizers. Nothing dangerous, just means you might find yourself walking on the ceiling occasionally. The kids love it. The bridge crew exchanged glances that conveyed their collective realization that they had stumbled into something far more terrifying than cosmic horror. Humans being humans in an environment that should have killed them several times over. As their ship approached the indicated docking station, Vexthara observed what could only be described as a thriving human settlement that had apparently decided the laws of physics were more like friendly suggestions. Solar collectors had been positioned to harvest energy from radiation storms. Asteroid mining operations were using gravitational anomalies as natural ore processors. Someone had actually built a recreational facility around what appeared to be a stable wormhole, complete with what looked like viewing platforms and snack bars. The docking procedure itself was an education in human adaptability. Instead of fighting the local space-time distortions, the station had been designed to work with them. Docking clamps that adjusted for dimensional flux, airlocks that compensated for temporal displacement, warning signs that cheerfully advised visitors to please keep arms and tentacles inside reality at all times. Tobias Hendricks turned out to be a middle-aged human with the kind of relaxed demeanor typically associated with people who had long ago made peace with the universe's tendency toward chaos. He greeted them at the airlock wearing what appeared to be a maintenance jumpsuit and the expression of someone who was genuinely pleased to have visitors. Sorry about the mess, he said, gesturing at a corridor where the walls occasionally flickered between solid matter and something that looked like crystallized starlight. We're doing some renovations. Turns out when you build in a region with unstable reality, you have to account for the fact that your architecture might occasionally decide to exist in a different dimension. We've learned to roll with it. Quellen's methodical mind was clearly struggling to process the casual way This human discussed concepts that would send most species into existential crisis. How do you survive the radiation storms? Oh, those? We harvest them for power. Turns out if you approach it right, cosmic radiation makes excellent fuel for fusion reactors. Plus, the light shows are spectacular. We hold viewing parties. And the gravitational anomalies? Natural transportation system. Once you learn the patterns, you can slingshot cargo anywhere in the system without using fuel. The kids use the smaller ones for recreational surfing. There's a whole league now. Vexthera felt compelled to ask the question that was making her crystalline structure vibrate with barely contained horror. What about the space-time distortions that make this region impossible to navigate? Tobias brightened considerably. Oh, you mean the temporal eddies? Yeah, those were tricky at first. But once we figured out how to read them, they're actually pretty useful. Natural time dilation fields are great for aging cheese and wine. Plus, if you're running late for work, you can take the long route through Sector 7 and arrive yesterday. The Paradox Resolution Committee handles any complications. The tour that followed was a masterclass in human ingenuity applied to impossible circumstances. They had turned deadly radiation into a power source, transformed gravitational chaos into a transportation network, and somehow convinced reality itself to cooperate with their municipal planning. The colony didn't just survive in the dead zone, it thrived there, treating cosmic horrors like municipal utilities and existential threats like minor inconveniences requiring proper signage. As they walked through corridors that occasionally existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, past windows that showed views of space that technically shouldn't be possible, Vexthara began to understand why no other species had ever encountered humans before. It wasn't that humans were hiding in the dead zone, it was that they had made themselves so comfortable there that the dead zone had apparently decided to expand its hospitality. The really nice thing about living here, Tobias mentioned casually as they passed a cafeteria where the menu included items that existed in theoretical physics rather than traditional cuisine, is the privacy. We always wondered why we never got visitors, figured we were just in an unpopular neighborhood, though I suppose that explains why our application for Galactic internet service keeps getting rejected. The terrible truth was beginning to dawn on Vexthara with the inexorable certainty of a collapsing star. The dead zone wasn't dangerous despite human presence. It was dangerous because of human presence. Somehow, simply by existing in their characteristically stubborn way, humans had managed to make the universe's most feared region even more cosmically unsettling than before. And they had done it while maintaining a customer service department and what appeared to be a 5-star rating for their visitor facilities.